Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's better on draft.
We are live, Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I truly appreciate it on this Friday night. We are having a great interview today, but I want to go over and see what my co-hosts are drinking before we begin, starting with Wendy. Wendy, what do you have?
Well, it is my favorite time of year, and I have parents who love me, so they picked up a Mad Elf Grand Cru for me on their way home this week.
And Dan, what do you got?
Hold on, I'm confused. One, your favorite time of the year is Veterans Day?
No, it is Mad Elf season.
Oh, gotcha. So I've got a couple of things here. I've got a bacon and eggs from Pizza Port, and then another one of my all-time favorites, the Malpais from La Cumbre.
All right, and for myself, I have two beautiful cans of the Juno juice from the Alaskan Brewery, deciding to try to clear out some of these IPAs and hazies and stuff that is in the back of my fridge that continues to get pushed in the back, because you all know how much I love me some IPAs. But with us in studio is our guest. We have Matty-O, is what everybody calls him apparently, from Fiddlehead Brewing. Why don't you give us a little bit of introduction, tell us what you do, and a little bit about Fiddlehead.
All right. Welcome to the show. Thanks for having me. My name is Matt, and I am the owner of Fiddlehead Brewing Company. I've dedicated my life to craft beer. I've been in the industry for 25 plus years and enjoyed every single day of it. It's been an incredible journey. And Fiddlehead, which is my first project that I've taken on as the owner, has been an incredible success story. We've been in business now for 12 plus years. And we are, at the beginning of this year, we were the 36th largest craft brewery in the country out of 10,000. And we are about 25% over those numbers this year. So we are going to find ourselves probably, in the top 20 next year, if not low 30s. So some really exciting things happening. And we do that with a very simplified playbook. I don't have 20 SKUs. I focus on a couple of core brands and Fiddlehead IPA, which is what I'm drinking right now, which is a beer for all occasions. And there it is. Okay. Highly recommended. And this is 85% of our sales. So it's a beer that I drink often and always. And people constantly ask me, well, what other beers do you drink? And the real answer is none. I only go to accounts that serve Fiddlehead. So when I'm out in the market, I'm drinking my beer and I'm always trying it. I always want to make sure that, a lot of breweries and brewers tend to get blinded because they're only drinking it fresh, but I will drink the beer. I will purposely take home old cases. And so I'm constantly checking on the quality and making sure that the shelf stability is there.
I have a follow-up question to that because it's more of a question of curiosity. But when you run into an account that maybe overpurchased, got overzealous, thinking they can move a specific amount of cases and now they're sitting on some old product, how do you as a business owner rectify that type of situation to make sure that, certain facilities aren't carrying old product anymore other than buying your product to go dump somewhere?
Sure. That's a great question because it's one of the most difficult things to have control over, being that, in most every state in the United States, we're selling through a 3-tiered system. So once it leaves our control, it goes to our distributors. So you need to work closely with your distributors. And then the next sale goes to the account. And it gets very difficult to have that reach. And the reality is once the accounts have bought the beer, it is theirs to do with as they please. But we have taken a very strict standard with all of our accounts and with our distributor partners. So we demand that our distributors hold no more than 15 days worth of inventory, which is very rare in this industry. Most other suppliers are giving their distributor up to 60 to 90 days worth of inventory. And there's a lot of reasons to do that. It's very tempting. The distributor will give you money. You'll have more cash on hand that you can use to fund your business. But for me, I made a decision when I put my beer into distribution that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was quality and freshness. And so we demand not only 15 days worth of inventory, we demand cold storage from everything from shipping. The accounts can only store the beer cold. So when you look at our numbers, and we're out of that top 50, there's not many of other breweries that have those types of requirements. We are selling all that and crazy amount of beer through the cold box. So we're not selling beer at the case stacks at the end of the aisle in the supermarket, where the majority of beer is sold in America. We're not selling beer at retailers that don't have cold storage. So we're missing a huge segment of the category, but we're still able to put up some incredible numbers. And that is because of, in my mind, the reason is because we're selling such a fresh product. And whether the consumer gets that or not is to be determined. But what they do get is every time they open up a Fiddlehead IPA, the beer is super fresh and it's always kept cold. So that is one way that we're able to control that. So when we first started with cans, to get back to your original question, how do we police it? Our distributors were on strict orders. If they went to an account to deliver the next week and there was still product from the prior week, well, then that beer couldn't be dropped and they need to sell through first. I'm not worried about out of stocks. I'd rather go out of stock than have old beer on the shelf. I think I'm like most consumers out there. If I can't get something, I'm not going to stop wanting it. I want it even more. So having an out of stock is not the end of the world, in my opinion.
When dealing with maybe larger players in the game, here in Michigan, we have Meijer, Kroger, there's, Giant Eagle, whatever your large grocer is, Walmart, maybe even over in the New England and the Vermont area. How do you deal with maybe those larger organizations that might have a bigger hand in the distribution because they're buying so much product already?
Yeah, again, we don't do volume discounts. A lot of larger brands will do. They'll incentivize retailers to buy more by giving a break on price. We don't do that because that's counter to what we're trying to do with delivering the freshest product. So it's working with them, and like Trader Joe's is a great example. It's a huge retailer in the New York City area. New York City market, and they don't have cold storage. Well, they wanted our beer, and we needed to figure out how we can make this work. So while you don't go to the cheese section to find beer, that's where they forced us in. They made a spot for us in the cheese section in their stores in New York City, and now you can go get some cheese and grab some Fiddlehead IPA. So there's ways around it if you're persistent, but it is a constant uphill battle, and I feel that my especially my distributor partners as well as our sales force, they spend a lot of time being the cold police, we call it, and they're going out there and checking on retailers. But one of the greatest resources, in my opinion, is your consumer base. And so we clearly label on all of our cans, please store cold. When we sell our beer in a 4-pack, on the top of the pack tech, it says must be stored cold on a sticker. So we really have made a campaign to educate our consumer and to let us know if they're seeing retailers that are not conforming to our wishes. So that's been a large success that Fiddlehead has definitely undertaken and really done well with.
Well, before I pass it over to Dan with a few more questions, why don't you give us the rundown? What is Fiddlehead IPA?
Sure. Fiddlehead IPA is really what I saw as a whole in the definitely in the Vermont market when I first started, and kind of New England as a whole. There was all these great IPAs that were being created, but there was no one had gotten to the scale where they were producing one of these beers on a large scale that was readily available to bars and restaurants. And so that's really was kind of the driver. My business plan really summed up in one sentence. That was what I set out to do in 2010. And it is a really balanced IPA. It's about 45 IBUs, so it's not incredibly bitter. It's bitter enough to be stylistically correct. It's certainly, I wouldn't describe it as like a soft IPA, which is kind of another popular style around New England. But it has that the bitterness, but we spend a lot of time and energy dry hopping the beer, and so we put a lot of dry hops into this beer, so it has a really beautiful dank hop aroma, which kind of gives the consumer kind of a perceived bitterness where they feel that the beer is actually more bitter than it actually is. And I think that's what people like. They like the smell of hops, but not necessarily the bitter or astringent flavor associated with that. So it's a really well balanced beer in that sense, and it checks the boxes for a lot of different types of consumer. I hear all the time from a craft heavy consumer that really loves the beer. Hey, it's, whenever I go here, I always grab my Fiddlehead. Or I hear from people like, I hate IPAs typically, but I love your beer. So it really is able to bring people into the category, as well as satisfy people that are deeply embedded into the category. So it's really been a fantastic vehicle for that.
I actually want to respond to that real quick because I don't get Fiddlehead beer a whole lot because I don't spend a lot of time in the Northeast. But I went back and looked on my Untapped, and I found that I did have the second Fiddle back in 2016, which was at the very beginning of my IPA journey, I guess I would call it. And I rarely rate things, and I put notes in there a lot for me to just remember what I liked about the beer. And my note was actually, this is an IPA that I could drink on a regular basis, and which is pretty high praise from somebody who was so hop timid at the time.
Yeah.
So I wish that I had more access to it. So now I'm looking for somebody to mule it back for me.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, so I want to jump in here. So you're in an interesting part of the country when it comes to breweries, being just south of Burlington. People that don't know, Burlington is the largest brewery city per capita out there in America. What was it like getting started there? I know you opened in 2010. What was the competition like and getting your feet on the ground and getting your brand out there?
Well, I've been in the Vermont beer scene for many years, since 1996. And I worked for Magic Hat for 13 years. I was the head brewer there. So I had a lot of contacts. I did a lot of different things. So I really felt that the kind of IPAs were just emerging at that time. And really for me, it was kind of going after that draft play, which was a space that a lot of people weren't playing in. Canning had just become quite popular. And so a lot of people were going directly into package. And my idea was really to focus on the on-premise, which is where I feel brands are really built. So that was kind of our goals early on. There's a lot of competition here. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, you go into a package store, there's a lot of 4-packs on the shelf. So the most important thing for me when I started was to own my home market. And before I ever thought about shipping a drop of beer out of the state, I needed to satisfy every last outlet in my home state prior to doing that. And I think back to that Wendy's point, like, if you don't get beer, we have a very small footprint. We're only in 10 states right now. And I think that's probably will be as many states as we're able to grow Fiddlehead with at the same time, keeping up 15 days worth of inventory, making sure the beer is fresh, making sure the beer is cold. It becomes a lot more challenging logistically as you send the beer farther and farther from home. So Yeah, it's great that Vermont is. It's great that there's a lot of emphasis and energy placed on craft beer. When I first got into the industry, New England was kind of the laughing stock of the rest of the United States when it came to craft. Early on, for those of you who are not familiar with kind of the New England scene, there was a guy by the name of Peter Austin, and he sold his Peter Austin system, which was it was like a 7-barrel system. It came with everything, including recipes and ringwood yeast. And so every pub throughout New England had one of these systems. So they're all making this top cropping, open fermented ringwood style beers that all tasted like butter and big malt bombs. So that was kind of the origins of it. But we had a lot of dedicated people and consumers that were really our diehard Vermonters that love local products. So there's always an emphasis on local products. So if you make a great product and you deliver at a great price, there's always going to be room for you in the market. And Vermont is we're kind of a testament to that. So it's been a kind of slow, steady rise, but it's been really exciting. And I think that our location and being part of the Vermont beer scene has been instrumental in our success.
Now, your flagship beer, as we were talking about, is the IPA. What made you go with an IPA to be your main seller?
Well, at the time, no one was doing it. The reality was no one was. This was 2000 when I first opened my doors in 2011. The Alchemists had started. They were doing some canning. Sean Hill was just getting started as well. And no one had wide distribution, statewide distribution of a beer, so of an IPA. And that I kind of was able to, it was the type of beers that I was interested in consuming. And I felt that people's palates were kind of migrating towards a hoppier style of beer. So it was a perfect storm. The timing was right. We focused on making an IPA and doing one and doing it really, really well. And then Second Fiddle was the second product we came out with, and that was a double IPA. And that was one that we canned well before we ever canned our flagship IPA. Our flagship IPA actually hadn't been canned up until the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm glad you brought up The Alchemist.
Yes.
John Kimmich, he's been on the show. He is the father of the New England IPA. And he was on here telling us he hates where New England IPAs have gone.
Sure.
I don't see a New England IPA on your menu or any of your beers that you make. Do you avoid this style, or tell us about that?
Well, when you go to Philadelphia, it's just called a cheesesteak, right? It's not called a Philly cheesesteak there. It's called a cheesesteak. So if you're in Vermont, the way I see it, I'm an IPA. It is a New England IPA because that's where it's being made. I don't need to really call that out. I felt in our marketing, and I try to stay away from all those words, those buzzwords, juicy, hazy, all those New England. To me, when I set out to develop my beer and develop my brand, the most important thing to me is the quality of the product that's inside the can. It's really, I don't want someone to drink the beer because it's from Vermont or I'm from Vermont. That's great. That's great reason, but that shouldn't be the driver here. The driver is great beer. I drink this beer because I really enjoy it, and not because it's supposed to be, it's this hot new style or it's this, that, or the other thing. I drink it because of the quality and the merit of what's inside.
All right. Now, taking a look at your menu, the one non-light beer I see on there is a bourbon barrel-aged porter. Talk to us about your barreling program and what you do with that.
Barreling program is not much. We have an incredible brewery that is really laid out to produce IPA, and so we don't really try to bog our distributors and our consumers down with too many SKUs. But occasionally we like to have some fun and do some different things. So Hodad, the beer that you mentioned, is a vanilla chocolate coconut porter that we've been brewing for many years. It's actually the first beer that we canned. I think it was back in like 2013. And from there, we tried to make an imperial version of it. So that's what you're seeing on our menu there. And we aged that in some bourbon barrels, and it really turned out fantastic. It's about just under 11% ABV, and it has all those great characteristics and layers of flavor that is really complex.
All right, final question. I'm going to send it over to Wendy. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say. I mean, we have a sour program as well, but these are very small priorities for us. It's really we're very focused on the day to day and the quality and consistency of our core brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was saying, final question before I send it over to Wendy. You mentioned that you feel like you're pretty much at capacity for your current distribution based on your requirements for these locations. Do you anticipate expanding further so you can expand that footprint or no?
My goal is to be an inch wide and a mile deep. So I do want to sell a lot more beer, Dan, but I want to sell it in the existing markets. And some of the hallmarks of our success story has been essentially double-digit growth every single year that we've been in business, and that continues to this day. And that continues in mature markets like Vermont. We still consider. I mean, even though we have, I think we were looking at it yesterday. I think we've got about 800 tap handles in the state. There's always another one to find. There's always a new points of distribution out there. So it's our goal to continue to find those points of distribution, as well as to really work with our retailers and sell more in the accounts that we're in. So we're doing fantastic, but there are some markets where we could always be doing better. And so we're looking to double down on those markets, investing heavily in resources in terms of people, point of sale, marketing opportunities, et cetera. So we're always looking to continue to grow the business, but it's going to be in that footprint. It's going to be very close to our existing footprint where it is today.
So speaking of those numbers, I was going back and looking through kind of the history of the brewery, and I saw that you started out with 15,000 barrel system, and then you moved
a 15 barrel system. A 15 barrel system.
15 barrels. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then in 2017 you were at 50,000. 50?
No, we had a 15 barrel system, and that was when I designed and developed the business plan, and the kind of brewery that I wanted to create for myself was a distribution brewery. At the time, a lot of people were falling in love with their tap rooms, right? They wanted to keep all the margin. They wanted to sell every last drop across the bar at their own facility where they're making the best return on their investment. I saw that as an important part of my business, but that wasn't the business that I set out to go into. I set out to go into distribution. So where most people, or a lot of people that are in my shoes, make a mistake, in my opinion, is they undersize their equipment. They'll start with a 7 barrel system. It's very difficult to scale up from a 7 barrel system and do it successfully. And there's just you're not making enough beer to really have any type of meaningful distribution. So for us, we started with the 15 barrel system. We were able to do about 10,000 barrels a year on that system, 2 years in a row. We ran out of space eventually, so we had to build another brewery where we put a 30 barrel system in. And that 30 barrel system, I think, got us to about 50,000 barrels, 24 hours a day. And then our last expansion was a 60 barrel system, but it's incredible. It's a German brew house by the manufacturer Rolek, and it's able to do 12 turns a day. So we knock out 12 60-barrel batches a day. And on our 30-barrel system, we were lucky to get 5 out. So we're able to produce, even though it's only twice the size, we're able to produce a lot of beer in any given amount of time. So it's kind of modular, so we can expand. We can add another kettle and add another lauter tun, and that can easily get us up to that 200,000 barrel mark, which is where I see the business being growing to in the next 3 or 4 years.
So how has an increase like that over the years changed the business plan, maybe business model, or the culture of the company?
Well, those are the most important things. You got to kind of keep those in check, and it's very difficult. And having been in the industry for a long time, and like I said, my previous employer that I worked for, they underwent very similar type things where we're growing rapidly, and then there's definitely a change in culture. So I still have my hands in just about every aspect of the business right now, and that I'm able to do at the size that it is. I'm a very hands-on owner. I love to get involved, and so I think we've done a very good job. At first we were just a small startup, and I had a lot of dreams. And what our biggest asset is our employees, and so we kind of, while the culture it's gotten a little bit more corporate, but through doing that, we've been able to offer an incredible amount of benefits, pay structure, and things that are working to keep our most valuable employees and let them grow with the company. So we've had a lot of great success stories. I've had a large percentage of the people have been with me for a very long time, and it's a very collaborative, inclusive environment, and we're very proud of that.
That's awesome. I saw a video from, I think it was like 2017, where you said that you were able to use points from purchases to take the employees on a vacation every year.
That was my thing. Yeah, I couldn't afford to pay them well, but I ran up a lot of money on my credit cards. So I'd buy all my raw materials, which I still do to this day, on credit cards, and then we would have just, I'd have just millions of points, and then at the end of the year we'd go on a giant trip. And we went to Vegas one year, we went to Miami, we went to Mexico a couple of times. So it's that was early on was a good perk, and I'm really excited because I've been someone who's been in the industry for such a long time. When I first got into it, it was my first job at Magic Hat. Actually, they didn't even pay me for the first 6 months. It was they were just like, come clean kegs, like we'll pay you when we can. And then one day they're like, all right, we'll give you $7 an hour. So I've seen both sides of it. It's really encouraging today to see how far it's come. People are making good wages, and it's become a very a good career. It's really become a career path, which wasn't an opportunity when I was in college. Just not too long ago. So it's great to see how far the industry's come, and we're very proud to be part of it.
So I don't know how to describe it. I am a consummate volunteer. So every brewer that I talk to, I ask them what their brewery does in their community, because I know that the breweries that have strong ties with their community tend to get a lot more support from their community. So I was reading about Team Mastermind. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the reasons and drivers for me to start the company was to have an opportunity to give back to the community. And I have one son. He's 17 years old right now. And unfortunately, he's had well over 30 surgeries in his life. And he was a Make-A-Wish recipient when he was in 2010, I believe. And he's just an incredible guy. But he needs a community and services that are meaningful for his health. So we as a family and as an organization decided how can we give back. So we launched Mastermind, which was an incredible beer that we had produced. It was I typically don't talk about recipes and ingredients, but it's no secret when you have this beer. It's a very Galaxy heavy beer. Galaxy was just starting to come to the US when I developed this beer, and so we sold it initially in 12-ounce cans. And we didn't have a canning unit at the time. It was like a mobile canner would come. And so we would do that 3 weeks out of the month. And we would sell a 12-ounce case of 12-ounce cans for $78. So it was the equivalent of a 16-ounce can. And the 25% of the sales, not of profit, but 25% of sales from the sale of Mastermind went and continues to go to the Vermont Children's Hospital for the beer that's sold in Vermont. So we've had we redid at the wing where the Children's Hospital is. We redid the room for like the playroom. So when kids are at the hospital and recuperating, they can go. And the playroom was okay, but it wasn't great. So we raised over $400,000 to redo the playroom. And it was really meaningful, and we have a plaque on the wall there. So really excited about that. But you make a great point, Wendy. And so what we do with Mastermind and what we continue to do is as we roll that out to new markets, we work with our distributor partners and we find meaningful sponsors in those markets. And we will, all the sales from Mastermind in that market go to a local charity. So if you go onto our Mastermind page, the consumers can see, okay, when I'm buying this in the Albany, in the capital region of New York State, the dollars are going to the Double H Ranch. Or if I buy in Philadelphia, the dollars are going to CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So we're able to tie that in with the local community. And it has definitely helped us become great partners and got a lot of excitement around those from those local markets. So we're really excited about that. So yeah, there's a list. We just pulled up a list there. There's a list of some of the organizations that we supported, and we created a fund to do this. So we're able to put the money out, and we're very, not only is the beer fantastic, but we're doing a good thing at the same time.
If you're listening to the podcast only version of this show, of course, you can always check us out on youtube.com/betterondraft. But we will have the link in the show notes. So make sure to just go into the show notes to find it. Back to you, Wendy.
So I'm definitely a sucker for any type of beer with a cause, or pretty much any cause. So I wanted to make sure that our listeners knew about that, so that if they are in the area where they can get some, they can help with that cause. So you have gone on record saying that draft is the best way to drink beer and the best way for your beer to be represented. Obviously, us here at Better on Draft totally agree with that.
Yes.
But why don't you explain why you believe that for the non-believers that might be listening?
Sure. Well, draft differs from package in that it's always kept cold. So with any brand, and if you have it on draft, it's that beer has been kept cold its entire life. So it's going to be a much better representation of what the brewer's intentions were in developing that beer. When you're out, you're having fun. And I think that, so when we first started, my goal was to create definitely a regional draft only brewery, but I was thinking that it was potentially going to be national, the first ever national draft brand. And we were well on our way. But the pandemic hit. And so I had about $1 million worth of beer out in the market, draft beer. And the first day that the pandemic hit and the restaurants closed, I not gladly, but I bought all that beer back and dumped it. Once it's in the keg, there's nothing else you can do with it. So we brought it back. It went down the drain, and I was left with the realization that at the time I had 60 plus employees and their significant others and their families to take care of and to see through this. And we didn't really know what the future held. So I could sit back and just wait for draft to become a thing again, or I could pivot our entire business and go into a can. So that was the decision that I made. And we rushed. We fortunately had the design already for the can, just in the event that we needed it. We were able to secure some cans, and away we went. And we just started packaging, and we got forced into a lot of grocery sets. And now all of a sudden, people, for the first time ever, went to the supermarket, and holy cow, Fiddlehead IPA is here. I don't want to make light of the pandemic and everything that happened, because a lot of people really lost everything. But we were one of the rare exceptions where we were actually able to grow our business dollars over dollars 25% that year in a totally new market with where we didn't really have contacts or any type of relationship. So it was really exciting, and I think that speaks to the power of the brand and the power of our reputation in the market.
I would have to agree with that. Now, you said that the Fiddlehead IPA was, I think you said 85% of the business?
Yes. Yep.
Does it ever worry you that, like, people can be fickle? Does it ever worry you to have that much invested in the one brand?
No, not really. I think that I think there's always going to be, I said it before, but there's always room in the market for a well-balanced, accessible, quality product at a great price. So that's going to continue. I don't see people all of a sudden going from hoppy beers back to light American lagers. I mean, on occasion, I think every beer has the right occasion, but as a whole, I feel that the consumers' palates are definitely geared towards much more hoppy beers today. That next generation, it's hard to say. I really don't know what they're very tough to figure out. And there's a lot more competition out there these days. Obviously, in beer, in most of our regions, cannabis is another distractor of consumers. So it's liquor always continues to be very strong. So it's very interesting time in craft beer right now. But if you do one thing and you do it well, I think Anheuser-Busch has showed us that you can do okay.
True story. So my last question before I pass it over to Ken. American craft beer lovers really enjoy their IPAs, but I feel like the Northeast US has an even bigger love for it. Why do you think that part of the country demands so much IPA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure that I really have the answer to that, but I definitely do see that. And I see when you start to, as we continue to move more west, you start to see a lot more of the breweries from the Midwest have a lot more reach. When you start getting into Western New York, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, that area, there's a lot more. I start to run into a lot more brands from your neck of the woods, and they do tend to. I would agree. They tend to have a wider portfolio of products. But New Englanders just love their hops, I guess. It's hard to say. I don't know what the reason or cause is, but I'm happy.
Well, the New England IPA is pretty much what broke me into my love of IPAs now, so it's working.
Great.
Ken?
Yeah, Matt, on your website, I noticed you do sell disc golf discs too.
Yes.
I actually noticed that Simon Lizotte was over there for a lot of stuff. I'm guessing late last year or early this year, depending on when, because the video was posted in January this year.
He was at my place, and then he signed a huge contract like a week later, and he won a tournament, his first tournament in a while. So I like to think I had something to do with that. But yeah, I think he came and filmed that I think it was 2 springs ago. Yeah.
Well, my curiosity is piqued. Do you throw?
I do, of course.
Do you have more than just Discraft in your bag? Since I know all of your stamped Fiddlehead discs are Discraft.
Discraft I do like Discraft. I'm not sponsored by anyone, but I do love Discraft. And so I have a course at my house, and it's called. And every other Wednesday, I have about 40 people come out and play, and it's called the Money Game. And afterwards, I cook for everybody, and we drink beer, and there's Fiddlehead IPA on every single tee box. So it's just it's a lot of fun. I'm much more of a recreational player these days, but I do have a lot of my friend Jeff Spring is the director of the Pro Tour for the PDGA, the Professional Disc Golf Association of America. So I have a lot of contact. I've met a lot of the pros, the touring pros. Really great people, love craft. It's a kind of like, that's where like everything meets there. Disc golf, craft beer, it's just that kind of a perfect marriage. And so it's a great community. It's something I love to do. And again, just it's using that to help tell the story of who we are and what we're all about. So we do a couple of disc golf beers that we have done throughout the years. And we do offer discs for sale. And if you're fortunate and, if I'm in a good mood, you drop me a line on one of the social media, who knows? That's how some people have showed up at the Money Game, some fans. So you never know what will happen. And you never know who's going to show up. We get a really wide range of players. So.
Well, before we finish the show, I do have one more question I want to ask before we get into our final questions. Where did the name Fiddlehead come from?
Well, I really wanted to, I kind of alluded to it before. I didn't want to have something that was overtly Vermont. I didn't want, I think that a lot of people make that mistake with their brand, and it really kind of eventually pigeonholes them into a smaller business than they can necessarily grow. And I think people make that mistake by, there's very few examples in my mind of breweries that kind of have a geographical name and then have been able to launch on a national brand as a national brand. Sierra Nevada is a good example of one that has been able to do that, but I'm hard pressed to think of many others. So when we were coming up with the name, we wanted it to have some regional appeal, but not kind of hit you over the head in Vermont. So Fiddlehead is it's a head of a fern that grows. It grows up here in the Northeast. It's the first thing that comes out in the spring, and if you harvest it at the correct time, which is a very short window, you can cook it up and eat it. It tastes kind of like asparagus, and it's just a fun foraging. And we like the name for a number of reasons. Like we kind of had second fiddle in mind right away, and just that it can go a number of different directions. So that was kind of our feeling there.
And with Brewbound naming you guys the 2022 Craft Brewery of the Year, what is next? How do you top that off? How do you continue the legacy that is Fiddlehead?
Well, the industry grew at 0.6% this year, and we're at 25%. So I think we're well on our way. We're continuing our charge, and that was just and we're able to do those numbers. We added one additional state this year. And so we're really, as I said, continuing that, double-digit growth in every market. And as long as I'm able to maintain the quality and freshness of the product, I'm willing to continue to grow it. But those parameters, we're not willing to deviate away from those. So it's got to be on our terms. That's one of the great things about the business. early on, this was kind of like when I was working at Magic Hat, I learned that they were kind of trying to grow very quickly, and they brought on a tremendous amount of money, investors, and that's when things really changed quickly. Kind of back to Wendy's about culture and things like that. So I like to say I learned a lot what to do in that my previous job, but I also learned what not to do. And one of the most important factors in I think the day-to-day operation of our business, as well as kind of the future and the way we set out going about doing things, is that to this day, I own 100% of the company. I have no investors. I have no partners. So I just do things that are good for my employees and good for the beer and my distributor partners. That's it. Those are the three people that I answer to. And, we proudly dump 5+ batches a year out of our facility that I know, 99% of my competitors would put out the door. So the future for Fiddlehead is to continue to make an incredible product, deliver it at an incredible price, and align ourselves with incredible partners, and really have fun. We're making beer. We're not saving lives. We're making beer.
And as we end the show each and every week, we ask you one final fun question before we let you show and tell us where we can get your beer and where we can find you online. We're going to start with Dan. Dan, what is your final question for Matt here?
All right, this is a fun one. Excuse me. Since you used to work at Magic Hat, we all know one of Ken's favorite beers is Magic Hat number 9. Where the heck are beers like Magic Hat number 4 or number 5?
Yeah, they went. Yeah, those were not drinkable, I think.
I think in the hundreds of episodes we've done this final question, that might have been the best final question I've ever heard. Dan, congratulations.
I like that.
Wendy, what's your final question?
Well, I'm actually going to defer my final question to one from the chat. Gary McCrae says, you were one of the first to do a gin barrel beer. Is there any other barrels you'd want to use? P.S. Second fiddle is a baller.
Yes. I do want to get more into barrel aging. We just did we just underwent a major expansion about 2 years ago. We added another 30,000 square feet onto our brewery. So, we've got a little bit more space, but, it's having the bandwidth, really trying to stay focused on your core values, not let a lot of the small things get in the way. But, barrel aging is something that I think is a great representation of the craft beer. So we want to continue to work with that. But it's really cool to see some of the different types of barrels that are out there. One time we had some barrels from they were from Central America somewhere, but man, these things had been through literally been through some wars, and but it was really neat to see and to get those. So we don't have any plans for any other types of wood right yet, but keep posted. We'll come up with something fun.
All right. And my final question for you, obviously you mentioned that you love when you go out to grab a Fiddlehead Brewing beer, but other than an IPA and any of the beers that are in the IPA world, what is a beer you enjoy to drink? A style?
Well, we have as I mentioned, we have an incredible German brew house. It's a 60 barrel Rolex system. And the reality is those types of systems are made to make incredible lager beer. So that is an area where I know that's near and dear to your heart, Ken. So we are working on a recipe right now for an authentic German style Pilsner, which is the first 2 batches turned out pretty awesome. So we are we're looking at doing an extension there. But for the size we're at, it's very difficult when you start talking about introducing another product, because the most important thing for me is you don't ever, in my opinion, you don't want to cannibalize your sales. So, when we first came out with the IPA, then we came out with a pale ale called Rarefied Air, which was a great beer. But it was too similar to our IPA. And what we were doing was just taking our IPA drinkers and giving them something new to drink. So it wasn't really furthering our sales. So we're always looking to add another style. And I think that lager is a good example of that, where the possibility exists to bring new drinkers into the Fiddlehead family. So that's kind of our goal as we look at new brands and extensions to not cannibalize our core products, but bring in new products to strengthen our brand family as a whole.
And that will do it for this episode of Better on Draft. Fiddlehead Brewing, where can they find you? Where can they find your brewery? Where can they find you online? Where are you at?
New England. And you'll find us. If you're looking for us, if you come to New England, you can't miss us. And that's the greatest thing about our brand. You can find our beer at an incredible high-end craft beer bar. You can also find it at Fenway Park, and you can find it at Chili's. So that's what's I feel has been a real strength of our brand, is the ability to be the best beer in a number of accounts throughout our footprint.
All right. That's going to do it for Better on Draft. Thank you so much for joining us. Find us on all of our social medias. That's Better on Draft, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Untapped, YouTube, Kick, Twitch. Whatever social media you use. Yeah. Whatever social media, MySpace. I think we're still on Tinder. Go find us.
Live journal
right.
And dead journal too.
Yes, both at the same time. Simulcast. No matter what you think of your beer, we think, including Matty-O, thinks it is Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Better on Draft.
Cheers.
Cheers.